part 5 of today's agenda, council goal setting session. We'll have, I'll just open with a few remarks, and then Mr. Charlie Barron of the Municipal Association is here to conduct our training. Sorry for the delay, sir, but thank you for being here. Okay, this is a continuation of what we started when we did our strategic plan with the community. It's always helpful to bring boards and commissions together. All the members can articulate, talk about how they set goals. Mr. Barron is going to walk us through some proven steps and methods to do that, to get us to have better open communication, make sure we're in agreement on what goals we're setting so that when we're all pulling the wagon, we're pulling in the same direction and not pulling all different ways. So with that, I will turn it over to Charlie. Thank you, sir.
Well, good morning, everybody. Happy New Year. Hope everybody's excited to be here on Friday. But again, Charlie with the Municipal Association, I know I've attended one of your meetings, but just so each of you may or may not know, I am your field service manager. Prior to coming to the association, I was in Greenwood for 18 years. I was their city manager for 9 of those years. So, that's my background. So over 20 years, working in local government. And as y'all know, y'all worked with Jeff, and then we kind of tweaked our districts. And I think this is in your comprehensive plan, or at least I saw reference to it. And as the mayor said, I mean, this is why we're here. Typically, we encourage our councils to kind of have one of these sessions. And this is the perfect timing. You're 6 months out from your new budget coming up here in July. So you want to get together, rehash, look at what we're going to try to accomplish over the next 12 to 18 months, to give staff clear marching orders. So this is kind of the kickoff to your budget process, where hopefully we can flesh out some goals, and those can be put into your budget. I like to start off reminding you of your oath. Y'all have a tough task, to work together. All the challenges, the stress that the state puts on you, the federal regulations. But the key is this collective group of 5 individuals trying to get on the same page and work together. And that's where we see the biggest challenge. I'll be honest with you, while we talked about the association's civility campaign, and I commend you. Y'all adopted the model resolution in the campaign because an election process is typically about you, one person, the individual. Well, now we're here, and there's 5 of you, and that's where the challenge occurs. And to truly get things done, you have to work together. Doesn't mean you agree, but you have to work together, and you have to do it respectfully. And so those cities and towns in our state, 271, the ones that get things done, understand that, and they work together. And the ones that don't, quite frankly, don't. I was in a recent training a session. I think I told Carol this, and I think it's the truth. Y'all are pretty much married. This is a marriage. It's the same thing. I mean, it really is. If you have a disagreement, if I disagree with my wife, I gotta work that out, because we're staying together. Y'all can't get separated. You can't. The law doesn't allow you to kick one out or to remove one, or you got to work together. I had a council member recently jokingly look at me, and he said, "Well, what if we're divorced?" And I'm like, the law does not allow that. So get along. We try to tell all of our groups this. It is who people have put here. So y'all got to figure out how to find consensus, and a part of that is this goal-setting process where we try to let everyone have a voice. I use this quote a lot from Vince Lombardi, praise in public, criticize in private. So, we want to be very positive, front center when we're in this environment. When we disagree, we want to have those conversations not in the council chambers. We want to have those outside, one-on-one, and work things together. It's important that everybody's on the same page, that we've communicated ahead of time, that we've gotten the agenda ahead of time, that there are no surprises. A lot of that is dependent on the staff, right? The staff have got to do a good job of keeping y'all abreast of things. And, constantly maintain civility. And civility comes down to little things, body language, tone. Just a simple thing of raising a finger can elevate people's tenseness and frustration. And so it's these little things that truly make a difference. And believe me, I get to work with 88, 89 of our cities and towns, and I kid you not, this is the game changer. When you can figure this out and you can control your emotions and your communication, you will accomplish a whole lot more. So I know starting out here, you may be like, well, wow, we're talking about goals. Why are we doing this one? If you can't get the first part right, you can forget about the goals. And I see it statewide. So your role, just remind you, this is the mayor council form of government. So again, your mayor is really the day-to-day chief executive, and the council is the legislative body. Don't get caught up in the roles or the form of government. I'll have folks that we need to change to the council form, or we need to change to the city manager form. All the forms work fine. It's the communication that is the key. And so, again, the council's a legislative body, but y'all need to work together as the team. Everybody needs to be singing off the same sheet of music and getting the same information. Any questions about the form of government or roles? So again, y'all, your form, you would then establish an administrator. Certainly, you've appointed Carol that, and then Carol works with the mayor to run the day-to-day operations. And it boils down to this, and this is kind of meant to be comical from the movie Cool Hand Luke. But again, if we can't communicate, and it's simple stuff, sometimes you have to have a phone call, or maybe you have to. I had a council member, loved him to death. I think some of you have, don't mind saying his name. Some of you from Greenwood, you'll know this individual. His name was Johnny Williams, and Johnny was a old school mill worker. Just mill mentality. And I couldn't communicate with him through paper. That just was not the way. But if I could go and sit on his front porch, on his swing with him, we could figure things out together, and I could get him to calm down and listen. So sometimes it takes each of y'all figuring out what's the best way to communicate with each other. Some of you may be fine with text, and that's perfect. Some of you, it may take a phone call. And Carol and the mayor, typically y'all are the ones in there moving that communication. You got to figure out to make sure that everybody understands what's going on before we get into the meeting, so that we're effective. I don't know if any of y'all read or follow Peter Lencioni. I really like this book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. I use this a lot when I do these goal setting sessions, because again, are you smiling? Are y'all familiar with this?
No, I took a large stack through this.
Yeah. If you don't get this, again, I stress you can't get the rest right. So We'll let him give a quick understanding of his philosophy.
When it comes to creating a healthy organization, the first and most important discipline is the building of a cohesive leadership team at the top. And that entails the overcoming of the 5 dysfunctions of a team, which I'm going to review very quickly here. The first dysfunction of a team is the absence of trust. Trust is critical on a team. It's the foundation of teamwork. And what it requires is that people get vulnerable with one another, that they're very open about who they are, what they're good at, what they're not good at, if they've made a mistake. Without trust, we cannot build a team. Specifically, because without trust, we can't overcome the second dysfunction, which is the fear of conflict. You see, conflict is not only okay on a team, or even good, it's necessary and required. We have to engage in conflict, and when we have trust, conflict becomes nothing but the passionate pursuit of truth, or the best possible answer. Why is conflict so important? Because without it, we're going to encounter the third dysfunction of a team, which is the lack of commitment. Teams that don't engage in open, honest conflict don't really commit to the decisions they make. They're passive about it. Commitment is when everybody truly buys in because they weighed in on a decision and they realize that's what they're all going to stick with. Now, why is commitment so important? Because without it, we're going to encounter the fourth and most common dysfunction of a team, which is the inability of people to hold each other accountable. Accountability is so important on a team. When people are committed, they're going to have more courage to actually confront one another about shortcomings in their behavior and their performance. And why is that accountability so important? Because if people aren't holding each other accountable, they're going to encounter the next and final dysfunction, which is the inattention to results. Now, you might say, well, what are people paying attention to if not results? Well, maybe it's not the collective results of the team they're interested in, but just their own individual results, their budget, their department, their staff. If we're going to focus on the collective results of the team, we have to trust one another, we have to engage in healthy conflict, we have to commit to decisions, hold one another accountable for those, and achieve true collective results. Those are the 5 dysfunctions of a team.
Now, it makes it sound easy, right? And I'm not trying to, y'all maybe like already thinking, what's this guy on a Friday giving us this hokey management stuff? But I truly believe that if you can't get this stuff right, we're not going to get our goals accomplished. So let's kind of talk about this in the context of local government, right? Absence of trust. So building trust, relationships, you've got to be open and accessible. That means that y'all have got to understand each other, respect each other's backgrounds. You've got to respect yourself. Know that you've got strengths and weaknesses. So you've got to build that trust. Then you've got to be able to work through conflict, right? And I see a lot of our councils and staff, they'll get to this point and they won't get past it. They won't talk through their disagreements. They're not willing to concede and come up with a collective decision. And so, we want to feel appreciated. We need to respect and value different opinions and try to get there. And so the next part is if we're not willing to get past the conflict, well, guess what? We don't commit. And so we've got to get this right in order to commit to the goals. So, if the council selects a goal, I don't know, work with the DOT to improve the interstate interchange. Well, if a couple of you say, that's not my goal, that's their goal. Well, guess what? You've now said we lack commitment. And so I assure you, if y'all are not collective in your voice to the DOT, nothing's going to get accomplished. So we've got to be committed. And then we've got to be accountable. And that's sometimes tough, right? When did something occur that we didn't get right? And we've got to be willing to say, hey, I trust you. And because I trust you, I'm going to listen to you and you're going to tell me you didn't get this right. And so we're going to improve. And so hopefully we've got trust in this room. and then we can hold each other accountable to get things right, and to know that we're all on the same team for Blythewood. And then last, because we have trust, because we've dealt with our conflict, we can focus on those results. And so what we tend to see many times is because council members don't necessarily commit here, they're looking to their individual results. And so many times we'll have members that will be more concerned about their interest, or maybe some council members are trying to get to another elected office. We'll see that occasionally. And so if your results are about you, I can assure you that we're not going to get the collective results for Team Blythewood. So does that make sense? Does everybody kind of see? I know it makes it sound so easy when you can put it in this easy little triangle, but truly this works. Any comments there? Okay. So this is just a quick, involving you now. Y'all are gonna have to speak up. Trust exercise. Take just a few minutes. It's amazing when I go into some of these communities. Y'all are so rushed in. There's, we really, you get elected and then you get thrown into council and you don't really know what you get into. And I don't know if y'all knew each other when you ran, and then we never take the time to learn a little bit about each other. So this is just a simple conversation of where did I grow up? How many siblings did I have? And how you fell in with your family? And what was the conflict environment like in your upbringing? Was it spirited? Did you avoid conversations? And so I'm going to start out. And I grew up in Greenville, family of 4. I had an older sister, and we avoided conflict. Our family, it was very secretive. And so I don't know if that has impacted my ability to have good relationships as an adult. I didn't understand the importance of working through conversations to come to a collective agreement. We kind of ignored things. In hindsight, looking back, it's a great upbringing, respect my family, but we avoided conflict in our household. So that's a little bit about me. Who wants to now go next to kind of share their story here?
Don't be shy. I'll go, Charlie.
Okay.
Right, I grew up here in Blythewood, off Swigert Road, the Mountain Valley Road area. Older brother, younger brother. I'm right in the middle. So 3 boys. Conflict was very loud and aggressive with 3 boys in the house, as you can imagine. So, but seriously, mother was the stern disciplinarian, handled issues immediately when they came up. So if you didn't do the dishes, you didn't drive the car that weekend, kind of thing. So.
Who else wants to go?
You're looking at me, so.
No. Who got it?
I grew up in Gaffney, which is not far from Greenville.
Right.
I have 1 younger sister, and like Mayor Franklin, my mother was the disciplinarian, but I don't recall any major conflict. Maybe for lack of remembering, or we just ignored it, similar to your situation. So
Yeah.
I don't really recall.
Okay.
Grew up in Rock Hill. Moved there when I was in the 6th grade. Before that, Atlanta. Have an older brother, but we kind of operate in reverse roles. He's 2 years older than me, but I typically act as the oldest sibling. Conflict in our house. My father was the disciplinarian. He traveled 3 weeks out of the month. So that led to one hell of a week when he got home. But he was the primary disciplinarian, and I would say most of our family did not have a voice, and once I found mine, it didn't go away. But my father, it was good spirited debate that my father was a disciplinarian.
I grew up 10 miles from here in a little area called Dentsville, right down 77. Product of an only child, military family, so I knew where I stood. Knew the order of things to come. Wasn't any conflict in our house because my father said what he said goes. And so there was no conflict. And then joined the military, so I understood the chain of command and where I stood there. So
From Greenwood, oldest of 5. I guess I had pretty much a well wrapped around environment as far as holding conflict down. You got a little bit from everyone. So when one got tired, the other one picked up the pieces and kept it going. And then you'll see your grandparents and then they'll talk about it and you got it from them. So pretty head on family. Was very open and honest about any and every situation. And that's pretty much how we do it.
Well, very good. So again, I mean, you can see each of you comes from a diverse background, diverse upbringing, and all that impacts who we are today as a person. And so y'all have to collectively work together to build that trust to get things done here in Blythewood. Do we need a break? Are we good? This is a good break point if we need an opening break. Does anybody need? Anybody need that? Good. So moving into the goal setting part of the meeting. Again, our highly effective communities are trying to not get caught up in the day-to-day fires. I mean, town hall, when you work in a city environment, it's constantly fires. There's, an issue here, an issue there. But today we need to think about the future, because if we can't keep the future up here, we just get caught up in these circles and we're just constantly doing that. And so y'all have a vision, y'all got some priorities, you've got results that you want to achieve. Certainly, you can't achieve your results without giving your staff tools. So, and here's an example at the local level. Maybe a goal is annexation, let's just say. Well, you have to be honest with yourself. Annexation is complicated if you've studied it and looked at it. And so if a goal is annexation, you've got to be willing to look at it and say, well, maybe we don't have enough staff to tackle annexation. And so do we need to add staff? Well, and y'all know how this works. If we add staff, what does that do? We got to find some money to pay for it. And then where's finding money? Boils back to taxes. Well, we may have to increase something to pay for it. So my point is, and you may be a staunch, hold the line, no new fees, no new taxes. And so you're kind of in the middle of, well, do I want annexation or do I want to hold the line on taxes and fees? So understand that you may want these desires, but you've got to give your staff the tools to accomplish it. We're wanting to maintain relationships with our businesses and our community, our neighborhoods. That's largely your responsibility. The 5 of you are the cheerleaders of Blythewood. The mayor typically is the point person. And so it's very important that y'all are out there building that relationship, and that you're demonstrating stewardship for the future. That will be the way that you win success over by building that confidence in the community. So a strategic plan is nothing but a roadmap, a compass, how we're going to get there. When things occur, it's going to try to keep us focused on what we want to get to at the end. And then you kind of have to step back and you have to hand the baton to your staff and to let them get to that end. Strategic bodies, boards, if they get so caught up in the day-to-day operations, they can derail the ability of the staff to get things done. So we don't want to, the term's overused, but micromanage the staff. We want to give them the tools and let them get to the ends that we have. And we've already talked about this. The timing of this conversation is, a few months out from your budgeting process. We're trying to identify things that you want, and if we have to, monetize them. And so we have the vision. I'm not, the process that we use, we don't get into the vision and the mission. We really just want to focus on some key things that we can get done over the next 12 to 18 months. How can we go about accomplishing the objective is the overall, the larger focus area, and then, key goals within that, and then tasks are the specific projects. So, and I'm going to kind of go through, and then of course at the end we want to, what is success? And sometimes that's hard to define in government. One of your goals may simply be maybe, we need a better relationship with the chamber, a better relationship with Richland County Council. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to have a breaking of bread, maybe an informal breakfast or lunch, just to say, hey, how are things? Again, it's that same trust relationship. And so a goal, the benchmark may be where we had the meeting check. That it may be as simple as that. Others may be, your goal may be we grow business. Well, we may track hospitality tax dollars or business license dollars, and we may be looking for like a 10% growth. And so that's how we're measuring success. This is kind of a real world scenario of how goals, objectives, tasks work in local government. So you may set a goal that we want a strong, healthy economy for Blythewood. So to get there, we want to get a diverse mix of small, locally owned businesses, and we want to focus on workforce development and training. That's the objectives. Well, how do we get there? Well, we may first have to complete a marketing assessment. And that's when somebody comes in and looks at sales tax. And so, they may look at your sales tax and they may say, well, you have a lot of, you don't have enough, the buying power of your community says that you can buy X amount of furniture, but you're only spending this amount. And so you come up with the amount of leakage that may be getting sold elsewhere. And so you learn, well, we may have enough room to bring a furniture store to Blythewood. And so the task is to write that marketing plan, to come up, to find out what businesses we can attract. Well, once you know that it's the furniture store, then, well, okay, let's find furniture companies that may be willing to divest into our community. The other part, and y'all do an exceptional job of this, is your communication and branding strategy. How do we look on the internet? How do we look on social media when we're trying to get that furniture store to locate here? Do they see us as an attractive place? Do our numbers work? So those are the tasks. And then, as I said, at the end of the year, we're measuring that. We're looking at our business license revenue. Did we go up in restaurant sales? Did we go up in contracts, in the building permits? Did local hospitality tax revenue increase? If it did, then maybe we are meeting our overall goal and objective. Any questions about how this works? Okay, good. So the process that the municipal association uses is very simple. There is nothing that I'm gonna do today that's anything special. We're simply gonna try to, and I gave you a kind of a recap sheet. Hopefully y'all had that well in advance, where we go around to each of you and we ask you for an idea, a goal. And again, it can be we need to buy this, or we need to update this policy, or we need to have a meal with the Chamber of Richland County, or we need to talk to the DOT, whatever. We get those ideas. And I encourage each of you to remember that to help to explain that member's idea. That's fine, but don't bash each other's ideas. And then we get all these ideas up on the wall. Y'all may come up with 20, 25, 30 ideas. I don't know. Doesn't matter. We're done getting all those ideas up there. I'll ask you to rank those ideas. And so we will rank those. And those are the things that, hey, we've got to do. We're giving our staff marching orders. Carol, Mayor, if we get anything done this year, this is it. We got to get these things done. Then our next ones are our should do's. What are the next 3 things that we've got to do? Then last is we'll come back and we'll formally put all this into a resolution. And so probably we're now in January. Maybe it's your January meeting. I don't know when your next meeting is, or it's your February meeting. I recommend that you put all the ideas. So we're going to put the top 9, those 9 things, and you may have a few more than 9. I'm not going to break ties. So just know that if something ties, we don't break ties. And then we list all the things on there. So even if an idea or a goal doesn't get to the top 9, we list all the others on here as honorable mention. They stay on there. And I think that's good for the mayor and your administrator to understand these, to hear the conversation, because you never know what could happen, right? When we leave this meeting, a new program opens up. This grant gets announced. And so there's funding out there that may help one of the honorable mention ideas. Well, now that the mayor and Carol have heard that there's at least one person that's interested, you may have to come back and say, well, we've got some money, so we're going to have to do this honorable mention. And so that's why, this is never a firm. I don't want anybody to get so caught up that, it's got to be 1 through 9. This thing, it's a ship and you're constantly, but if we're not communicating with each other, we won't know what we're trying to accomplish. I can then give you kind of a spreadsheet example. We don't want to create, again, Mayor and Carol, you don't want to create more bureaucracy and more work. That's the last thing we want. But you do want to be able to track this, right? Because what we see with some of our organizations, they'll get through the goal setting process and they'll go, whew, done, put that on the shelf. Let's worry about this next year. Well, if you're not keeping up with it and Peter Lucioni talked about accountability. If somebody quarterly is not saying, where are we in the percentage of getting this done, I can assure you we're going to be at Christmas next year and it didn't get done because time just gets away from you. So we use this tracking sheet, who is responsible for getting this done? What percentage? Where is it in the budget? Have we, I talked to you, if your goal comes out to be annexation, well, did we put money in the budget to help coordinate annexation? And we try to simply track that. So again, we want to concentrate on our priorities, be realistic. I gave you the example of annexation. If we want that as a sample, again, if you don't put money to it, you're not going to be successful. Certainly, you then are seeking feedback all the time. The fact that y'all are live with this and streaming this, it shows that you're wanting to be transparent and open to growing Blythewood to a better community. Keep these goals constantly in front of you. We have some of our councils that literally annually frame their 9 ideas and have it on the wall in a council chamber. So you're constantly, you could make it in a little sheet that you keep. My mayor in Greenwood, he'd like to keep our goals on his refrigerator. That's every morning he'd have his cup of coffee and he'd text me, where are we on this? And again, because of that trust and understanding, that's how you get it. That's how you get things done. Any questions about this process? Does everybody kind of understand? Are y'all comfortable with it?
I'll show you later, but we've done this. That's
Right.
We have a list of.
I've seen your, I've seen your
So
your
we're
list.
familiar. We did it with the community involvement also.
And so, I don't know how long ago that
Oh,
was.
yeah, no, that's a good time to redo it. That's why we asked. you.
And so, as I said, I mean, things may have occurred since, we've had COVID happen. Has something that, because of COVID, changed, there's now more of a desire to have outdoor amenities. Does that, anyway. So this is, again, just that constant annual communication. Everybody okay with this process?
I really want to see the one from last year,
Yeah,
see what we get. I don't want to start over because we went through that with the community.
Right.
So
That's
it's
exactly
hard.
what, we're gonna take a break and then Mr. Williamson's gonna pull it up and then we'll.
Okay.
Do we have hard copies?
No, I don't have hard copies.
I guess we could run down and print them off. and bring it
Yeah,
in.
I can. Yeah.
That'd be great. Thank you.
You're gonna have to modify the spreadsheet so it'll print out because of it.
Let's see, you want me to get all
But
that?
remember, it's the one I sent you, I updated because I put all the events in order by date. That's how you'll know, I forget when I sent it to you.
Yeah, I'll just pull off that email and, you want me to do that right now?
Yeah, but then we'll take a break.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me use the bathroom, get some on.
Sorry.
Just to be clear, Carol, the one that has the goals and the comp plan on the right, yeah.
All right, so we'll take a quick break.
All right. Because we've accomplished some of the goals that we set out 2 years ago. So we've done some, so we'll take those off. And now we have some new ones.
Hey, Tony, sorry, all one in the meeting, so I said a little break.
I thought Don said hush up, my school, she put me down.
I gotta hear over the office.
I saw they saved the dog, about your house yesterday.
Yeah.
Gave the dog mouth to mouth and brought him back to life.
Yeah, I think he got scared and ran. Yeah.
Check yourself into it.
All that.
Supposed to be pretty today, right? I'll hurt him, he'll wake off. Do something.
Oh.
Well, in that. That is. The same thing as that.
Right, we have another one in James, evidently the windstorm took some shingles off of her house. She had someone come and look at it. Insurance doesn't work, pay her anything. All 6 years ago. This was all we're like,
Thanks, man. You're welcome.
good enough. I will, yeah. And just a break, so I'll make sure everything's okay. Right? We're gonna, tell them, text me if they need you. Okay. Yeah, well, because, I just need somebody there to tell.
We got great order. I didn't go to college, you ever this morning, anything to eat? No. And on the world, this kid, he said, it's just, it's gonna have to do something. It's just a math or something. See, they think this is what maybe started this, but it's sitting on the outside. I would use, I would put yeah. It seems to help. Yeah, it does.
Good morning. No, I'm sorry, we're in a town hall all afternoon meeting, but we should have a break, so I just grabbed my phone. Yeah. They do. Well, they're, right, those don't. Yeah, I'm with you. A longer driveway, yeah. Yeah, yeah. My driveway does wrong.
He does.
Yeah, it has to be a DOT.
I went by there overnight, I saw those emergency vehicles down.
Yeah, I appreciate you calling. I got nervous. Don, are you good with Excel? He's trying to figure out how to print select. I figured you would.
Be careful,
Just an account. It's kind of a working document. It's not really meant to be printable.
And I called Bill yesterday, it was right down his road yesterday, on the other walk, we were here, oh my gosh, I wanted to make sure it wasn't him.
No, so, I know Mike, I don't think Mike's last name. When you turn on Lower Road there, you got a double wide there, you got my blue one, and right there is mine. And I guess his mother-in-law's another one that now I didn't know myself. But when I rode in that garden and stuff, I seen him talk to him.
get vegetables and stuff. He cuts my grass when I'm out around.
I didn't realize there were two places in there.
Yeah, and there's a house in it. That's a long story. That place is a mess. I bought it, like the road itself is technically on my property. It was gonna be a roundabout. If you look at the original sketch line, it was gonna be a road that ran in there. It turned and then there was cul-de-sac and they were gonna build like 12 or 13 houses a long time ago. Well, this fellow bought it. And instead of putting a road in where it's supposed to be, they just started putting trailers back there, right? Because it was a family unit that owned it. And so that one fellow, when you turn in there, there's a fence, there used to be a trailer right there sitting on the street, actually, on the road. They pulled it off, the concrete pads in there. But that double wide sitting there, it's like 3 feet from where the road's supposed to be. And so technically, what they're doing, when you turn on that road and go down in there, you're on my property. So I gotta get it repeated. When I get some time, like what I wanna do is turn on to the town and just say, because it's on my property, and then just after I'm out of office, I can do it now, I'll get conflict of interest. Say, I'll give you all that road, just pay it.
How far does that go down?
It goes down and it turns left right between mine and that white one. And then it goes down the hill and there's a brick house in it.
I didn't realize.
Yeah.
I didn't realize there was that much down here.
Yep. It was the whole family. And they got 3 or 4 wells, because they got well water there. And I think I had to go there for Christmas and turn it on. I'm glad I did that whole, 50% of the community, the concession stand.
Yeah, I got a phone call that morning, and I thought it was over here. But then they called me back to know that the rec center, so I called Doug and met Doug over there.
Yeah, I saw that.
We got the water cut off.
I remember you texting it right
They
there.
were over there working on it yesterday. Well, they were hauling all that stuff off.
Yeah, I know, he wouldn't listen.
Thing. You see they get the sky, like on the outside of your house. Whatever reason, on the inside.
Greenwood, huh?
Yeah.
Great.
I got a buddy who owns a lot of property, big deer hunt camp on Chapels.
Yep.
Right there.
Wednesday.
Larkin Jennings.
Shot.
Stole son of a gun. He went to Southern with me and his granddaddy passed and let him and his brothers own the grandkids.
Anything.
999 acre, right on the Slow River there.
Oh, wow, that's,
You better get taken care of it pretty
that's that lot. When you're going across, if you're going towards Chapel from the Brooklyn, Cobble Drive, you can see it. I know who you're
You
talking
know what I'm talking
about.
about? Yeah, that's.
They've got, yeah, I've seen like beagle dogs and. Yes.
He got a nice little hunt cabin back there. That fellow, he lives in Charlotte. He owns an ambulance company. Larkin, my classmate. He tried to get me in that business years ago. I should have listened. I'm talking about, you just don't go rescue people and take people to the hospital when an elderly citizen has a kidney dialysis, they need Medicare pays an ambulance to go get them and take them to the dialysis.
Right.
And it's just, he's making money out of it. But yeah, he's got a nice piece of property. He declared it all obviously farm, so he gets all the tax discounts, doesn't have to pay a lot on his property tax and all that. And he had a grant where he could buy his own D7 bulldozer. So all he does is go down in there, cut deer lanes, put food plots in. Yeah, I bet, yeah. Duck hunting, they built an artificial, I forget what they call it. You got the river over here, they pump water on this side to make it swampy, so these ducks don't come.
Right.
They sit there running. Anyway, pretty country, I guess.
Yeah.
And our, one of our charities, my wife really supports, is called the Oaks. You know that program? It's
How's Lisa doing?
drug rehabilitation. alcohol rehabilitation. They just bought a house. It's called the Willow for females.
Right.
And men are separate. They're down with it. Anyway, that's pretty country up there. I like that one. Redwood 96, all that. That's where we're going on right now.
Too late now.
Too late for deer. Well, there's youth day tomorrow.
Yeah.
My 10-year-old, I think, and I are gonna go sit and stand for a bit.
That's a good idea. Even if you don't see it, it's a good day.
Can Carol email what he has?
Yeah, it's a spreadsheet, but it's
Yeah, it
just,
says the only person that won't be able to pull it up to me is.
say, I mean, I'll introduce it. That strategic plan that we held, I kind of just put it all together instead of, and the first document was a written document, and it was kind of just haphazardly like notes. I took it and put it on a spreadsheet so you can see it line by line. And that you'll see, I put all the objectives, and then comp plan came out recently, the new one. So I took it and let them pull all their goals out. And I just listed them side by side. And now the next step, which I had got, is which ones are actually the same. And then just kind of merge them all. So the comp plan says we're gonna do this, and we said in strategic plan says we're gonna. So you had all the objectives, or goals, I should say. And then under the goal, I just started listing objectives. Like, and then under objectives, there's tasks.
Right.
And then every 2 weeks, Carol sends me that product back with updates. Just like he's talking about. There says where we're at with this, where we're at. So based on our meetings, when we meet every month, if something's on our mind or y'all bring up something more urgent, then I tell Carol, okay, this is now for the next week, this is what you need to do. To give us information. He runs his own show. He has his own priorities for his staff, the staff. But, I just tell him, this one's more important right now. You know, legal review for property is more important right now than, you know, all these other things, so. And then he sends updates. And you'll see that. And then when we merge those, the final product, I'd like to, like a trifold. I'm trying to think through that process, because how often will we have to print that thing? Because when you meet a goal and it's no longer, it's not a recurring thing, it needs to come off of there. So you have to redo it. So it'll have town of Blythewood, it'll have mission, vision, values, next page objectives, next page websites, social media sites. So you hand this to a new citizen when they come sign up for a water. Yeah.
Okay, so this is, came from when Mayor did the strategic plan, right, January 2021. And he put the goals together, and he and I have used this to do reports.
And we'll send, you want it on digits, so y'all can just, okay, we can just email it to them. And I apologize, it's on my laptop, I don't have it on my iPad.
Pretty rough form.
Yeah, it's rough.
Made for, and then I'm, got the comp plan.
Okay, comp
plan.
Because if we don't merge it into one, I mean, now you got two sets of goals, two sets of priorities, comp plan and our strategic plan. They need to be one, whatever we call it, we call it. But, and they're not in any priority order, but they're just listed as we talked about.
Are we back from the break?
Gotcha. Okay. I understand, thank you. Yeah, I'll just email it, because some of these things get cut off.
Can we email and
Yeah, that's what I asked him to do originally.
All right, so this is, the goals that came from the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, they want you, if you email it to us all right now and then bring it up on the screen if you can.
Okay. Good. All right.
Yeah, just go up to the top.
Okay, so if you want me to,
Well, I was gonna try, I was gonna find the one that, says mission, vision, values too.
the original,
Yeah, the one that's just in writing, it's all, you have the Blackwood tree on it.
okay, oh, that one, okay,
And then that's part A, this is part B.
okay.
I just want Charlie to see it too, so.
I think I have that document up there.
Yeah, that's it. You call it strategic business plan. That's it. Okay, calls back to order. Thank you for your patience. Okay. So we'll just briefly review this and then get your feedback, and then there's things I missed. This is not all inclusive, it's kind of work in progress, but after this session, we want to formalize it and actually get it in a printed document that looks good. So that was the mission we agreed on, see if we need to make any changes to that.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir, please.
just for public consumption, since we're live, can you kind of give a historical piece of how we got here and when we started this document?
Okay, absolutely. What'd you say, Carol, it was January 2021, right?
Yep, it was,
So
Saturday before I
when we
started.
formed the new council after the elections, one of the first orders of business we all agreed on were, okay, let's set a clear vision, let's determine our mission, and then within that, let's put objectives that we think the people of Blythewood need, want, deserve. And then that in turn is the basis document, like Charlie mentioned, for your budget, because good governments resource what they value and what they believe in. So the first thing you do is, what do you value and believe in? And we issued that, and that's what this is here. And then what projects, tasks, or facilities can we create, buy, purchase, what have you, to meet the need? So what are you gonna do and what are you gonna spend in order to meet the specific goals? So we started by creating a mission: the town of Blythewood promotes, improves, and responds to the needs of its citizens while preserving our attractive rural and historic character for the benefit, enjoyment, and accessibility of all. So is that still germane to what we see Blythewood as doing before we go on? And this process, Councilman Griffin's alluding to, occurred January 2021, and we wanted to do a 3-year strategic plan. Why do you do that? Based on the administration. Then we'll have another election in November, new administration ostensibly comes in, and then they'll take this document and refine it further. Or if it's the same council, we keep going with our goals that we have. And so I put on there, what is the definition of a mission statement? What do you do? What quality and value? What's the quality and value of what you do? Who do you serve? What's the geographic scope of our mission? And then I captured words as people spoke and you all spoke. I wrote down words I heard. Things like responsible, honor, safety, environmentally friendly, attractive, family, veterans, responsive, efficient, service, clean, citizen advocacy. You can scroll down, Mr. Williams. Ethical, preserve, diverse, quality of life, honoring the past, visionary, safe, spiritual, McNulty Creek Road Loop, somebody mentioned that, and major sports venue for the entire state. Expand the town core park we talked about, beautification of public areas and frequent culture and civic events. So based on all those ideas and expressions, we came up with a vision that Blythewood is an iconic southern community with infrastructure to provide year-round cultural and recreational opportunities while protecting historic resources, preserving our history and small town rural character, and ensuring respect for all people and the environment. So what the vision serves, flash forward 10 years from now, is Blythewood an iconic southern community with infrastructure? Do we still respect cultural activities and did we provide recreational opportunities? And did we ensure respect for all people and maintain our environment? That's kind of what the vision tells us we're going to be in 10 years. And then I put some example value statements that I found from other towns. Then we determine core values. What are our key and essential values? And so we did outstanding community partner relations, transparency and accountability, inclusion, leadership, and stewardship. And that drove now you've identified your values. If we're still in agreement or we want to add some more, that's fine. What goals do you have to sustain those values? We talked about creating a veterans park, and lo and behold, Blythewood Historical Society came up, provided a program and a product that they've seen. We've already discussed it in the open town council meetings, and we're trying to proceed on with that. The second goal, we want to be known as a destination for the Christmas season for our famous parade, and we added, Mr. Don Russo brought up an idea of a Christmas light competition in the park here. And that's what they do in other towns. I believe Saluda's got one of the most popular ones. There are others. I reached out, the fellow that lives on Mount Valley Road, have y'all been there? He's a Coast Guard veteran. He has those lights. I reached out to him, but it was too late in the season. He'd already set his stuff up. But to have him come set something up, potentially. And of course, along with that, we got to have electric hookups in the park. We're going to have to put, so people can plug these lights in without breaking generators. just small ideas. Goal number 3 was the McNulty Street and Creech Road are modernized. They're now the new Blythewood Town Center District. And then so some ideas there, which you'll see in a minute when we get to the spreadsheet. I converted all these to tasks in a spreadsheet. We have quarterly engagements, which we're going to talk about today. Right now, we do ad hoc, informal. Councilman Brock will go talk to folks that he knows. Councilman Griffin talks to folks that I do. We all do that, but it's not structured such that we measure ourselves. Like, how often do we talk to SCDOT, and who are we talking to? Should that be a monthly engagement? Like Charlie brought up, are you doing a breakfast, a lunch? Are you going to their office? What are you doing? Here recently, I've been talking to the Secretary of Commerce quite a bit about the industrial park. So that's a key engagement, and they're all on board, obviously, for expansion of the industrial park and future business. State House and State Senate representatives. Councilman Griffin has a lot of connections there and talks to them on a recurring basis, especially during the budget season. How can we formalize that? Do we invite them here and host a thing? Do we go see them in their office? So if we make it more transparent and more organized, then we can measure our progress in all our engagement. I think that's just a small thing. I mean, County Council, we all talk to Derek Pugh on an ongoing basis, and Gretchen Barron and all the others. I spoke to the chairman at the co-op up here when we were talking about the first industrial park business that was coming here. But again, that's ad hoc and it just happens, and that's when I do it, but we need to schedule it and actually make it a recurring thing, in my opinion. We talked about planning commission, comp master plan rewrite. They executed that over the last year. So that's one we can check. We have a product in hand. Goal 4, we talked about annexation. We're going forward with, today we're going to get presentations on 2 different companies that we're going to entertain to help us with this. And then, of course, with that, we decide we're going to do it. Now you have to come up with a marketing campaign because people are going to want to know. The citizens I talk to, Eagles Glen, we now Robert Pond, they're dying to be part of Blythewood. The vast majority of the people who live in that neighborhood. But you got people right out here on Sanfield Road that say, no way, I don't want to be part of the town. So you're going to have both opinions. You know, what's in it for me if I bring my farm into Blythewood? That's what they want to know. Or the Blythewood Farms that's right across the street, 600 homes. What's in it for them to be part of the town? Goal 5, industrial parks, premier expansion location. Well, I'm telling you, the Secretary of Commerce and the governor are all about that right now. So we're making inroads there, as you all have read in the newspaper. Goal 6, Blythewood's renowned for a large festival every year. Y'all have heard me say this for a long time, which we're going to do hospitality accommodations tax discussion today. How can we continue that if you want to continue that? I've heard nothing but great feedback on that. People say there's so much going on in Blythewood now every month or something that we can attend as a family. And we talked about aggressive marketing campaign. We hired Anya Thompson. She's doing a great job. Outreach, social media presence. Talks about all our events that are coming up. Goal 8, the premier sports venue and destination for the state of South Carolina. Well, to do that, you have to secure some property, which we're right in the middle of doing to help this goal advance. But how do we do that? Because you're talking, 10, 12, $15 million to build one of these parks. So there's a lot that has to be thought about. And then who do we contact for that? Do we get USDA grants? Do we talk to county for revenue sharing? Because they're going to benefit from that as well. Complete streets, we talked about our 4 or 5 street projects with sidewalks, the I-77 bridge fence. Goal 10, environmental stewardship. This is one we really have lagged on. I really haven't put a lot of attention on this. When Councilman Brock brought up the tree planting here in the park, that was a great start to this. And we kind of let it lapse. I talked to the Blythewood Garden Club, offered a program, maybe a competition. You set aside plots within this park, families, businesses, what have you, can sign up to compete. give them a little bit of seed money to go and buy things, plant things, and then they plant it, then you have competition and you give out gift cards or something. So it's a win-win. Gets people out, they're doing it, we're helping the environment all at the same time. We do have a tree buy program where you can dedicate a tree to see, a family member, but we haven't marketed that aggressively. Trawl zoning, we did that based on the Cricket Tree Golf Course rezoning. We immediately came together to help offer that to citizens and property owners if they want to use it to sustain that property where it won't be developed. Be creative in raising revenues, and that's exactly what we're doing now with the hospitality accommodation tax. We're making those tough choices to set aside money to be able to accomplish these goals. And then I put up there just a town petty tax, a millage, manor revenues. We've been looking at all these. Safety and security, obviously we had some vandalism here in the park, which was becoming a plague. We took action, put up fencing, put up electric gates. Councilman Griffin assisted us in getting the monies from the state to go towards security of our park. And we had citizens complain about it, frankly. So we met that need and took positive action. Review ordinances for current modern, that's what we're doing with right now with the outsourcing of that project to update our code. Make sure there's not irrelevant or obsolete ordinances in place. Recognize outstanding citizen contributions. This is something I'm dragging my feet on. Key to the town, we do a tree lighting ceremony. What do we have formally though that we can recognize an outstanding citizen other than just a proclamation, like a Blythewood Brigadiers program or something that we do this, we honor a famous Blythewood, someone who's brought great credit and honor our town. We take a picture, we put it on the plaque, and we put it in some hall where we have an ongoing collection of outstanding citizens. I can't tell you, there's numerous people who've gone, professional athletes come from Blythewood, NFL players, and Alex English played in the NBA here from Blythewood area. And just recognize them and continue that progress. Establish a visitor center. We talked about this in 2020, 2021. It kind of fell by the wayside. Really, we don't see a need that may come off if we don't see that as being about it. What value would that add? And then expand Dogo Meadows Park and Playground gradually each year. Well, we're looking at property acquisition. We already obtained 5 acres to our north across McLean Road. And our playground, we set out to do it. When Mike Ross left as mayor, when he transitioned with me in the office, he told me that one thing he regretted that he wanted us to continue was add one new thing to the playground every year, and that's exactly what we've done. Just finish the shade cloth. So we're making huge inroads, and we're tying it to exactly what we said we would do. So I congratulate you all for doing that. Because again, municipalities, governments at all levels, they talk, but do they resource what they say they're going to do and actually get it done? And we are doing that. Okay, you can bring up that spreadsheet. And again, no order at all, it's just how we wrote them out. So what we initially said is by 2025, we would accomplish as many of these goals as possible. So we said we would have a veterans park with service flags. Well, you've seen the picture of it, you've seen the diagram, the proposal. We know how much money it's going to cost. And so under that, these are the tasks that I talked to the town administrator about, and he sends me this every 2 weeks on the status of it. Some of these are old, some of them have old data, but he tracks these. So as we get ready for our Veterans Day or our Purple Heart Day, that's when he gives me updates, who's coming, who do we have to speak, what's the agenda, and we do that every November, as you know. So that's what line number 4 is. Line number 5, Combat Veterans Memorial, and we approved it, the concept. Memorial Day flags, that's the program that Mayor Pro Tem Baldwin started with the local churches. we secure the little flags, and on Memorial Day, we go and stick flags for, when we're trying to expand that, get other churches involved in the area. And so every veteran who's buried in the town of Blythewood will have a flag on Memorial Day on their grave. That's the goal there. And we're pretty much doing that every single Memorial Day. Flag poles in front of Town Hall, that's part of the Combat Veterans Memorial, so that will merge with that goal. Goal 2, Blythewood's a destination for the Christmas season for our famous parade and do Christmas light competition. So as the parade gets closer, the chamber briefs us on it. Christmas decorations, we outsource that because it just didn't make sense. It was taking so much time for our town employees to go and do that, we outsource it and we save time and money actually, and they maintain all the things, the display items. It just makes sense, makes better sense. And then if we're gonna do a Christmas light competition, we now have a year to start planning that. And again, people come in, they drive in the park, they go around this loop, they look at all the displays. As they leave, there's a little form in a box, and you judge. You vote for your favorites, and then put it in the box. And at the end of the competition, we have a winner, and then we present the winner an award. Goal 3, McNulty Street and Creech Road have been modernized and are now the new Blythewood Town Center District, reflecting the circular town center. We talked about that, SCDOT, it's on their radar, they're planning, and I believe they're funded as well. It's just getting the contractors to come do the work. We need an update on Creech Road extension. Is it gonna truly go all the way through and come back out by the Blythewood High School Stadium? There's a lot of stakeholders involved in that, but it is on the agenda. And then other improvements on penny tax. We get penny tax reports on what the DOT's doing, what the county's doing. And then the great nemesis of us all, the Langford Road, Blythewood Road alignment. So again, we have it there. What are the action steps we need to take? How often do we need, who do we need to see? All that, we got to formalize that. Goal 4, Blythewood expanded by 25% of total land mass due to annexation. We're right in the middle of acquiring an outsourced agency to help us with this. So we have to write a policy, we have to have a plan, we have to update our maps, and then we have to start the marketing and engagement of the people that will affect. And then Richland County is right now doing their rezoning process, as you know. Goal 5, Blythewood's industrial park premier expansion location from the state. We have complete buy-in from Secretary of Commerce and the governor's office. It's just a matter of Richland County economic development, Mr. Rubel and his team to continue to bring vendors here to relocate. Goal 6, Blythewood is renowned for a large festival every month of the year, which draws many visitors. I think we can check that as success. We meet that goal, we do it, and again, great feedback from the citizens when we do these things. And we now have an official event in January, which is the Rotary, Run for Rotary. I forgot about it, that's tomorrow. Okay, and I just listed these, and I might have missed something, so we can always add to it. Goal 7, Blythewood has a new multicultural civic center, which will sponsor ethnic observances and any other observances we may want to do, and that's the gym, the Bethlehem Great Gym that we dedicated COVID monies to. And Administrator owes us an update on that from Mr. Will Anderson. I know they were waiting on the board, the new board to be seated, and then he was going to talk to them and get their final decision on transferring that property to us. Goal 8, Blythewood's premier sports venue and destination for the state of South Carolina. I think we're making huge strides towards, we just got to find the right way to expand and build a modern facility, if that's indeed what we want to do. And I know that Mr. Paul Livingston from the county, former chair of Richland County Council, has also said he was interested in that. He came to one of our events at the Kelly Mill Bombing Range Road facility where we had a huge tournament, and he saw literally thousands of people there and was very impressed. Goal 9, complete streets, plan, design, and implement street sidewalks and I-77 bridge fencing. We've spoken about that already. Making progress. I think they were 95% complete with land acquisition on the Blackwood Road expansion. That'll be the first step, and then we'll go from there. Okay, keep going. I guess they got cut off, didn't they?
Yeah.
I don't know what that one was. Goal 11, what's goal?
Goal 10 is environmental stewardship.
Environmental stewardship. I think that's the Blackwood Garden Club and other groups.
Goal 11 is be creative in raising revenues.
Yeah. And we're gonna have a conversation about that today with Councilman Pugh from Richland County. He wants to talk to us about some things that are on his mind. But yeah, how do we raise revenues? Well, number one, you rewrite your H-tax, A-tax policy and have some set-asides, which the subcommittee did, which we'll talk about today. But how else can we raise revenues? Does there need to be a millage conversation? Does there need to be a penny tax conversation here in Blackwood? And then 12 is safety and security. And that's security of the park. And then we talked about hiring contracted security force or possibly starting our own police force at Blackwood. So that takes resources. How are we going to do that if we're going to eventually get to that point? What's 13? Review what?
13 is review ordinances for
Okay.
current modern applicability.
Yep, we've been doing that. We're rewriting policies on all the commissions that we have in town, and we're also bringing in professionals to redo our codification of ordinance. 14, does that recognize our citizens? Yes, that's the keys to the town, the Blackwood Brigadiers, but whatever you want to call it. The school district has the Order of the Flame. Spring Valley has Order of the Thor. Blackwood High School has Order of the Bingo, just to name a few. That's what does Blackwood have? What should we do as a council to recognize outstanding contributions to the town of Blackwood? Expand the park, been doing that. We added the slide, the zip line, I should say. We added the fences. We've added the shade cloth. What's next? What are we going to add, and what are we going to add next year in next year's budget to keep that momentum going? And additional projects we said were important to us were the matter fees, which I think we got straight and got figured out. So that one can come off.
And the status is not lined up with this, so this just needs some work.
Yeah. This was just, an initial way to get it on paper so I can look at it.
It's just additional projects that didn't necessarily fall within a goal.
Yeah, like the homeowners association list, not just the ones in town, but the ones right around town, and then one council member can attend their meeting and have a conversation with the homeowners about their concerns that we can affect as opposed to something internal that they don't know. I've been to a couple, I know you all have been to a couple, you're all on your own homeowners associations, but what about the ones right outside of town? Because they are stakeholders. Beautification efforts around town, and then I just put the ongoing legal things we're working on. Marketing, the expansion of the Avenue Hill subdivision. Talked about the budget. Richland County Stormwater Agreement. Those are small things that we put on the list of actions that so now I've solicited, well, let's look at comprehensive plan real quick and then I'll solicit from the council members. Something we missed or something that is no longer relevant, just give me your feedback on it. But the comprehensive plan said, and you can look at that document, I just pulled all the goals out. Support health, economic well-being, quality of life for all residents, visitors, and businesses. And then they listed their strategies that they wanted to get after in order to make that, to complete that goal. So, for example, number 7 there, support public health initiatives with a focus on healthy eating and active living. So I don't know how we affect healthy eating, but I do know active living, if we expand our recreational opportunities, expand our walking trail to across the road, boardwalk, possibly, that will assist in accomplishing that goal. Goal 2, support a diverse and resilient local and regional economy. And grow the town center business district. How do you do that? You modernize McNulty Road, get some sidewalks, more businesses will come in. And then they said grow, what is it, small, locally owned, service and oriented businesses. Okay, that's what our chamber does. Okay, keep scrolling down. They talk about an activity center, that the gymnasium would fit that bill. Support the farmers market, obviously we're doing that. Goal 3, ensure an adequate and balanced supply of quality housing options are available and accessible to residents of all ages and incomes. So you had the elderly living center right there across from San Jose on Creech Road. Don't know how we can affect that, we can just allow it to happen by zoning. Goal 4, protect, preserve, and promote Blythewood's natural and cultural resources. We've done that by establishing the Historical Society Museum many years ago, and we maintain that. We have put on the historic register Blythewood Academy, the Bethel Hambury Gym. Goal 5, coordinate with partners to mitigate congestion, implement road improvements, and promote multimodal connectivity. Again, those are the road projects. So I can cut and paste that right on where we talked about our infrastructure improvements on the other list. Goal 6, provide a high level of public services and infrastructure in an efficient, cost-effective, and respectful manner. The purchase of property and that future use of that property will fit nicely into that goal. Goal 7, coordinate with partners in neighboring jurisdictions to manage growth and preserve Blythewood's small town rural area. Councilman Pugh will talk to us today a little bit about that, what he's going to do to help manage the growth around our area. Goal 8, strengthen Blythewood's ability to respond to and recover from natural hazards, economic downturns, and other community vulnerabilities. The ARP funding that we were blessed with, we use that to do just this right here. There was more we wanted to do, but legally couldn't. We couldn't give money to businesses who lost money. There was no way to do that. But we did provide monies to our outreach programs, our food banks, and we bought a piece of property for outdoor activities. Okay, that's just in a nutshell, a working document that I use when Mr. Williams and I sit down every year and develop a budget to present to you all. We make sure that all these goals and projects associated with these goals are somehow funded in that budget document. Because if not, it's not a true goal if you're not going to resource it. Just like Charlie said earlier. So what else do we need to add to this? What's on your mind? So Charlie, this would be the equivalent of writing on these sheets on the boards right here. That's what we kind of already did. Is there something we're missing? I know the land development is going to weigh heavily on the next administration, the next 4 years. How do you get the resources if you indeed acquire a bunch of property to make it usable? Go ahead, please, sir.
I don't really know what else to add. I mean, really, I remember going through this document. I remember participating and giving my 2 cents. I really don't know if there's anything else to add because a lot of projects are ongoing. I'm looking at the quarterly update Richland County with our roads. I mean, that's progress. They started sending those to us. Before we had no idea. We just relied on the magic of air to kind of inform us on roads, but now they are keeping their promise. That is one thing I always write back to them. Thank you for keeping your promise, of keeping us informed at least every quarter. And if something major changes, they will, govern themselves accordingly. But looking at this list again, I haven't seen it since we created it. We at year 23 now. To me, it still looks good. And I think we just need to clean it up, update some things on it. And then we can really see where we are with the projects. But I'm still in agreement with the original document.
And once it's cleaned up and you all like the way it looks, we'll put it right on the website too, so you see this and you can click on it.
How would y'all like to proceed? Do you want to go through some ideas, or do you want to continue forth with what has been presented from the previous year? Is there anything that is missing, needs to be added, needs to be highlighted?
I know what weighs heavily on my mind is a strategic communications plan. You talked about communication earlier. We all say communication is key.
Is that anywhere, I'm just trying to remember, that's really nowhere in any of that was there, I don't remember.
No, it's not. I want to add it, but well, simply because it's great that we see all that, and it all makes sense, and it ties into values, which ties into the mission and vision of the town. But how do we move those things forward? You have to communicate with stakeholders.
Sure.
So we were just talking about roads, SCDOT, penny tax. How do we formalize an engagement with those committees and then come back and communicate that to the group? Obviously, all of us can't go.
Does the town currently have any form of a monthly or quarterly newsletter? Is there?
We do.
We do a bi-weekly newsletter.
Oh, wow, that's great. And then obviously I know what you do on social media. Y'all don't have a public information officer. Who is the one that's?
So Anya creates a newsletter and she does the social media, but she doesn't deal with the media itself. She doesn't necessarily do press releases or go out.
Anya, help me understand.
Anya Custom, she's a marketing manager. You met her at the office.
Yeah.
So we just hired her in May. So.
Was that a position that was already?
No,
Or
we
is that
had
new?
a position that I kind of moved to be focused more exclusively on this marketing.
Gotcha.
So we didn't create a new position as far as adding to the staff. We just kind of took one that was kind of an assistant to the town administrator, and I just gave it a different title for
Gotcha.
marketing manager.
Sure. So it sounds like you're already ahead of, typically when I have these, there's no staff in place, but do you think that I'm not going to put words in your mouth, Mayor, but the need to maybe engage a consultant or a firm to help you draft some formalized strategy?
No, I'm thinking more along the lines of your project today. List all our stakeholders that we should be engaging. And then come up with a plan and leverage this council's personal abilities. And pick the right council member to go engage the stakeholder on a recurring basis. Because all too often we complain, hey, we really want our roads expanded. What's going on? And we rely on a penny tax committee to give us a report. But are we actively engaging the Secretary of Transportation, the commissioners of the Transportation Board? We talk about recreation facilities. When's the last time we sent one of us to the Richland County Recreation Board and talk to them about our concerns and our needs. You know, to be quite honest with you, I've met with them 3 times in the last 6 years, so that's once every 2 years, that ain't gonna cut it. So it's the squeaky wheel gets the grease kind of mentality I'm thinking about.
And really, you've merged two things here.
Okay.
You've merged, at least how I see it, assigning a council member to the various stakeholders we identify. And that feeds into this strategic
Yes.
communication plan. Right. Because there's monthly communication on what's happening, and I'm a representative on TPAC.
Yeah.
But TPAC is nothing but an information receiving body. You can't move anything. There are no additional funds there. They just tell you where we are in the process, and that is not gonna fix like what's long-term transportation issues. Yes, we're gonna get free road widths. Yes, we're gonna get a roundabout. Yes, we're gonna improve McNulty if the state allows us to. I don't know where we are on that one, but TPAC is not and I'm sure you're aware of that, is not,
I'm interested to know what T-PAC is.
Any, Richard County, any
Gotcha,
projects, so it's just a committee
gotcha.
a steering,
that doesn't do much.
I understand.
but they hand out reports that say, here's how we've spent millions of dollars. And great, we see that. That is not the answer, in my opinion.
Exactly.
We have to be in Washington DC to get some of these infrastructure, along with the state of South Carolina. But I believe they're bigger than the state in some cases.
Oh, sure.
So finding those right people to come up and feed the strategic communication.
Right, and
So I see that.
so Washington DC, great point, that would be one of our stakeholders, right, our Congress people, our delegation. So Carol and I thought this through, how do we do that? How do we get these resources? Well, you gotta show them your need and why they should invest. And then you hire a lobbyist, and it was gonna cost us $40,000 or something. And you join other municipalities, and I've talked to other mayors, and they're all in. Columbia does it, for instance. They have a lobbyist, $60,000 a year. Mayor Rickman said they set up events, the mayor flies up there, and a council member or two. They go sit down, they already have appointments with your South Carolina delegation, every one of them. And then one day, you go see all your Congress people, and you see a senator or two, and you have a presentation on what you're there for, what you'd like to see, is there any way you can help us? And that breaks free. And he says he's gotten $3 million from Washington DC for the city of Columbia. So after he gave us that presentation, we took a break, a lot of the small mayors got together and said, why don't we get together, hire a lobbyist to represent all our needs in the Midlands areas and share the cost? And so, but if you're paying somebody $60,000 and you're getting $2 to $3 million out of it, I mean, why would you not do that? And so that's one idea, but what are you communicating? You know, do you sit down and go over every single one of these goals? Probably not, but you say, these are the things we need help. We need help developing this property into a modern sports complex. Do you know, and then Congress people will say, for instance, hey, there's USDA grants, I can put you with the right people, and I'll write them a letter for you.
Sure.
And then that breaks free.
And not to, so it sounds like we've kind of moved to another possible idea with the engagement of a lobbyist. And I heard some, do you all want me to put that up here? I mean, is that?
I think it's an idea.
Yeah.
Didn't we move funds or?
Well, I don't know, I talked to Carol. Did we put that in the budget? I can't recall.
I think that we talked about it, but ultimately did not put money towards that in the budget. I think it's on that list, and then the long budget night, and some things did not receive funding, but we have spoken with the lobbyist that works for the city of Columbia, and he has sent me some grant stuff, but that's about as far as it's gone.
I mean, I get I'm going back to the first one on communication for a second. It is, I mean, you can't, personally, I have great relationships with a lot of the stakeholders that we're talking about dealing with, because I previously engaged them anyway. So I have a method of continuing to engage them. but those are long-term friendships. So it's like me and you. You're a Greenwood guy, I'm a Greenwood guy.
Right.
We know some of the same people.
Right.
Brock might not know those folks.
Right.
So they may be a little hesitant to kind of, sure, you're talking years in, you're not talking going to Washington DC. Like Senator Tim Scott, great guy, talk to him often, not as often as I like, because I think he's a good mentor on some pieces for me. But you're talking in years in the making.
Yeah.
So for Brock, and I'm sorry, I'm picking on you, but for Brock to go to that office and expect $3 million in the next budget season, that's not going to happen. Yeah. That's just not the way that apple falls off the tree. And it's not because he didn't do a good job presenting.
That's right.
It's just because maybe I don't really know this person yet. And that's up to him to kind of cultivate those relationships and build that network.
Right.
So, I mean, it's great to put names beside it, but those people on the other side, they might not feel the same way we are on building towards, those 5 dysfunctions. They might not see it that way. So,
That's right.
I mean, it's good, but I would toot a horn on one, and I'm looking at the quarterly project piece, just as my colleague on the penny tax committee said, I have a friend that's been on the penny tax committee. He hates it because he said there's nothing that they can't do anything. They get an update, okay, great, go home type deal. But I reached out and formed relationships to get them to send us these reports. I didn't go to county council and beg them to do something. I walked the hallway. Matter of fact, they didn't know who I was walking up on the 3rd floor. And I walked into an office and it was the wrong one. That's not how you get in here, But I walked those hallways and knocked on those doors to get them to see that we need this.
Right.
But that just comes from previous my pieces and understanding of how to build that. That's brand new. I ain't know nobody, right? But it worked. Right. So that is up to us as an individual to do that and stick with it, even if it doesn't work. Or I may have to use Brock to go somewhere because Brock has that leverage in to get something done, right? And not being afraid to do that. So I think it comes down to 2 things: is personal, trusting the person that really has that lead in, and then number 2, understanding that you're in the dating phase. Like you talked about a marriage. I see you, I like you, but you might not see me in that light. So you tried, and then eventually he or she said, I like you or I don't like you. Right. And you just know. Just my 2 cents.
No, that's exactly right. That's well said. And so what I envision is we list all our stakeholders. Like, okay, we already said Congress, got it. SCDOT, got it. The governor's office, Secretary of Commerce, Richland County Council, fellow mayors in the area. I mean, this list can go on and on and on. USD grants, all this. And so you list them out, and then we go through, when we all agree these are key stakeholders to the town of Blythewood. Okay, just don't randomly assign an individual to it, because you have to start the relationship somewhere. You got to start asking somebody out on the first date, kind of thing, to use this analogy. And then continually doing that on a recurring basis. And a long time ago, I was in pharmaceutical sales, and you have a team of salespeople. It's not just 1 or 2 people assigned to 10 doctors. Because of this relationship and the trust that Councilman Griffin pointed out. And so I stepped in my role. I'm a veteran, so they love to have me go in and talk to doctors who had served in the military. There's a bond automatically when you first meet them,
Right.
that you can break into that relationship with. You have young women who can talk to female doctors. I mean, it's just a fact of life.
Right.
You have, but your team is completely diverse, made up of different types of people.
Right.
And we didn't have the sign. I would go call on you as a doctor this week. Next week, Rich would show up. Next week, Sloan would show up. One of us will resonate with you. And when you find that, then you start saying, okay, now, Sloan, you like this guy as a neighbor, long-term friend. we need you in there more often than Brian, because he doesn't know Brian. Exactly what he's talking about. So leverage that relationship. And in turn, that doctor starts writing prescriptions for your product, because it starts building that level of trust. That's what I'm talking about with these stakeholders getting involved. We all know our council members on county, and they're busy, but they have huge resources in Richland County.
Right.
So to paint the picture and say Blythewood is the 4th largest growing municipality in the state of South Carolina, we need you to assist us in doing this. It may not work with me, and it may not work with Sloan, but Rich suddenly goes in there and gets an inroad. And so the team, through strategic communication, articulating our needs, may get some resources out of it, or support, or direction to another resource that we didn't know about. That's kind of what I say when I talk about strategic communication.
I understand.
Who are the stakeholders? Who needs to engage them initially? And how do we continue? So
Are
like I said,
those
yeah.
larger stakeholders, like, I know your residents are maybe getting your newsletters, but do you also send it out? Is it digital or?
It is digital. We don't intentionally send it out to these stakeholders, only if they sign up. So,
Yeah.
but we can.
maybe
And,
look?
and it is largely a neighborhood sort of internal town newsletter, but, so we could also create one that's more kind of to the outsider, you know, what's going on.
And so part of our plan would be your stakeholders, who's gonna start going to talk to them? And then what are you gonna say? Well, part of that is, Congressman Wilson, good to see you again, sir. Did you know Blythewood has a online newsletter that comes every 2 weeks? I want your staff to make sure they get that, so here's the site. Because they may not know it exists unless you go search for it.
Right.
So that would be part of it. And did you know we're acquiring this property, and we've really been looking for this sports venue, and we have the population at large believes in this.
Right.
Can you help us? Because we only have a $2.5, $3 million budget every year. What can we do going forward? And he says, oh, well, I know Steve Johns, the director of USDA. Let me give you his card. You call him and tell him you spoke to me. I'll write a letter on your behalf, and we'll get you some grants down there.
Right.
We don't know because we haven't done the contacts.
Right.
So that's kind of, I think about that all the time. We do have informal, exactly what Councilman Griffin talks about, informal relationships. You go,
Right.
you're always going to get a no unless you ask the question.
That's right.
So that's kind of, to get some of these projects moving that are high dollar, we have to have the resources. We're not going to start taxing our people overnight, and we don't have the population really to make that much tax base anyway. Unless you annex and get more people in the town, what have you. Anyway, so that's my concern. How do we get to that?
I understand.
And, oh, by the way, if you're relying on only one person who has all the contacts, and that person goes,
Right. Yeah.
what are you doing? You know?
So again, we will maybe look to put funding in the budget. That would be an idea for lobbying. And, you know, it's unique. I mean, whether you decide to do it at the state or federal level, really, both. If y'all, if you didn't look at the state budget this year, I'd encourage you to, because somebody's got some lobbyists. And you may personally dislike it, like it, but it's going on. And so if you're not in the mix, you may get left out. So,
That is, to the point you just made, that's very well said. I have a lot of connections in Columbia, but I don't float connections in or around the earmark system where Sloan did, and it benefited the town more than once with Sloan and the mayor asking for, hey, can we possibly get some funds? It turned out we got those funds through earmark.
I was in a meeting yesterday with our team. I think that the state budget's going to have, and y'all may have seen that article, $3 billion of new money. I can't remember how much of that is recurring, but
It was a surprising.
don't let
small
don't let them tell you that they don't have money.
number. And then I would add here, based on actions we've taken actions we are taking right now, actions we've taken in the past few months and will take in the next few months. If we look at goal 6 on what was done in 2001, that Blythewood is renowned for a large festival event each month of the year, which draws many visitors, and then we break that down. Well, actions we're getting ready to take make that look a lot different if those actions are passed. Because we are now proposing using H-tax and A-tax money in other ways for capital assets. So you take those funds away from the nonprofits currently doing our events, and we need to reinvent how we keep these events here. So I would propose either a separate nonprofit that maybe the town already holds or could start with a position to do nothing but monitor and keep these events here and figure out how to fund them, because we're changing our funding, or we're proposing to changing our funding significantly in the coming year.
Can I add?
We've kind of gotten this, that's fine, I mean, it's a small group, it's not, certainly.
And what, I guess one of my questions is, and I understand because of the policy, you know, what percentage of, I guess, the nonprofits, you may have, okay, for instance, strategic communication, you have more conversations with those partners.
Correct.
Than I would ever do. So what percentage of our funds is allocated to support that operation for that event? As far as if we pull funds back, will it still exist or would it still go on? That's always kind of been my curiosity, and I know it's off of that, and we can bring that back up in the next session if it comes up. But what percentage? Because it almost sounds like they're dependent on us 100%, and if we're not in at full maximum, then bye-bye.
If you're calling full maximum what we previously
Yes.
supported them at. So I think there's both and. I think there's some of those events that will go on with no problem without funding from Blythewood. I think there are other events that Blythewood are going to consider what I'm talking about. There are those events that Blythewood are considering one of our 12. And maybe we boil that down to 4 or 5 that we consider cornerstone events for the year. That, and Blythewood is saying, we're recognizing these events as our cornerstone events. And our nonprofit is partnering with whoever out there can pull this event off. And we're going to support you financially, and we're going to support you with facilities we have to do it. The council's not involved with that. H-tax isn't involved with that. That's a nonprofit.
So could we be overtaxing ourselves? Because I'm gonna go back and pull off of your experience, Charlie. City of Greenwood, the Festival of Flowers, the barbecue festival, and I may be missing something, but we're like the 2 cornerstone events for Greenwood and Greenwood County, because I think that was a combined piece. Right, correct me if I'm wrong, but the city with that size of a budget could really pull off
Absolutely.
12 months of events.
We
For
can't.
our budget, we can't, so that may only be one signature event.
Right.
That the town say we all in on. So I guess that's what we really have to look at when it comes to that event piece, is exactly like you're saying, we want 12. We're gonna market and ask people, hey, if you want a classic car show in the park, we love to have you here. If you're gonna do it, make it in October, because we don't have nothing in October. But it didn't cost us anything, but we can say, hey, we can advertise it through our methods, social media. We can help bring people and bring attention to it, but it didn't cost us anything. It was just staff time.
In item C, which will certainly have some overlap. But what our focus has been in the past is who is asking for it.
Yes.
Who is asking for money to come and have something in Blackwood? Well, there's all kinds of things out there that we can go to people and say, bring us, I'll use your example, your classic car show, and pinpoint where we want them to go. And if they come to Blackwood and see they can have a car show here and what facilities we have to offer, great, but that, and I'm proposing that not, if we massage C, that's not coming through council, it's not coming through an application, it's coming through a nonprofit and the people involved with that to bring quality events of Lifewood, turnkey events of Lifewood, how we support that. That's what I'm talking about. So as you achieve a goal from what was set in 21, you're going to create voids or opportunities for other fill-ins. That's what C would be in my mind, because yes, you're achieving a major event once a month, but now if we're going to expand, buy property and invest on the capital side, we really only have 2 to 3 major buckets of income to do that because we have no millage. So in that gap, how are we going to do that without leaving one group out totally and buying something now that we don't have anybody here to use because we've run all the events off?
No, I follow you.
Yeah.
We're on the same page.
Right.
We just have to massage that.
Yes,
A
absolutely.
little bit more, and I think we will,
And my big part there is that is unrelated to council.
yes.
Council is charged with running Lifewood for its citizens and improving the quality of life here. But we don't need to sit here and talk about
Events.
an event in the weeds of an event. We
Right.
need that third part to be going back.
And that is common. I mean, in Greenwood, we had a third-party corporation that the city managed.
Yep.
It was a 501c6 that handled all of our events.
Rock Hill, very similar. Come see me.
Yep.
With Rock Hill, very similar.
And we did, the
Yeah,
council didn't do it. I don't know if I fleshed that out enough, but.
That's okay. I mean, you're giving us 2 goals.
Councilman Brock, I mean, I don't want you to,
That is a much broader discussion than we have time and you have energy.
what, the events?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I understand.
I feel like that's another place and time, and this will bleed into our
Your next.
discussion at our next topic.
Right.
But I think if you're trying to hang your hat on one event a month, I think that's aggressive. I think that there are months of the year where it's not opportune to have outdoor events. We've kind of seen it. If 2022 was an example of that, that's the poster child for not trying to force things. Irmo has the orchestra. Gaffney used to have the Peach Festival. There are, these communities, you have one signature event. Well, I think that's a couple of them. I think at the end of the day, we have to figure out what our winners are, and you invest and enhance your winners, and you sell your losers. It's no different than trading stocks. You bet on your long-term, viable, and profitable events, and then you get the other ones. If other people want to pick up the slack, that's why we have private markets. They're welcome to do that. You and Ms. Coggins and Mr. Williamson revamped our fee schedule. Lifewood's open for business. You want to come in and do the work and reap the rewards? No problem. We're here. But like Councilman Griffin said, we can't just keep
Right.
overburdening ourselves financially and putting our staff in a position where they're constantly being pulled in 10 different directions when we need to narrow our focus on 2 or 3 things, mainly running the town and maintaining it and growing and keeping our town and assets as new and as nice as they can be.
Other goals or ideas that may not be on the list from last year?
I don't have any control. As I said before, I think that this document is still a living document. I think it's a good document. I think where we at, if I'm wrong, other council members will state, but I think where we at, I think this is a good document. I think that we need to flush out some things. As you see, we're still talking about event number C up there. So I think today we'll really flush some of that out later on in the session today. We'll flush that out and really change this document. I think after that, this document will change in several categories, and definitely by the next budget season. And then too, from the mayor's standpoint, to put some focus on the strategic communication piece of it. That's my 2 cents. That's what I pulled from it. I think those 2 components are important to me.
I mean, to echo Councilman Griffin's comments, this is the proverbial throw the pasta on the wall and see what sticks. We threw it all on the wall. It can't all possibly stick. So maybe individually and then come back together. I think this needs to be whittled down. It just has to be, there's too much to do because we could have 100 goals. But if you only fund 5 of them, why have 100? I mean, it's nice to have them, but we need, like you said, we need to get to the must-dos and really focus on the
And
must-dos.
that's kind of the intent of this. You know, I don't know if we need to kind of put those goals back up there and then rank them. I mean, but you make a valid point that you cannot do everything. And if we're looking at 12 months to 18 months, you know, what's the target?
We also have a very narrow set of range financially as to what we can accomplish. We have to keep that in mind. Like, it's great to want a modern complex, a modern sport and recreation complex, and I think that would be a great addition to the town. But within a 3-year or 18 months or 3-year time period, is that realistic? Could we set the groundwork for that? Yeah, we can. We're potentially acquiring a piece of property that could house that. There are other mechanisms that we can put in place to facilitate that in the future. You know, but you got to get buy-in from the current council, you get buy-in from your stakeholders, which are your citizens, you get buy-in from the next administrations.
Right.
That don't want to continue those goals.
So if this is the list of goals, plus those, I'm of the opinion, we have to rank those.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
And then go after that ranking.
Okay.
Knowing that they're all great, but how many do you see us coming out when you do this for other towns? How many make your?
Well, again, typically with this session, we would see 25 to 30 ideas get thrown up on the wall. The fact that you've got a council of 5,
Right.
probably less, probably only, 15, 20.
We're pretty close to that.
Yeah, and then it literally, I mean, there's the must do, that's only 3.
Yeah, I think that's a good exercise.
So, I'm just trying to think about the best, and this is a little curve, so I'm trying to think about the best way to be productive. Do we want me to write all the other goals up and then we vote? Is that, or do we need to go to that? I want to be productive with your time.
Well, no, exactly what Councilman Brock said, we need to prioritize.
Yeah.
Prioritize them, and you're gonna have a lot of ties. I know you said you don't like ties, but you're gonna have 4 or 5 that are must do goals. And then you're gonna have some at the very bottom that if we have the resources, we can do it.
So in addition to ranking your must-dos, they have to be accomplishable.
Yeah.
Right, because like one of the goals is the alignment of Blythewood and Langford Road.
Well, that's a must do, but
It's a must-do, but can we actually accomplish that must-do? I don't know the answer to that
it is
question.
a different tier must do.
Yeah,
So-
it's certainly not within 18 months.
Or within the town's budget.
Yeah, so, we can rank, that's our number one goal, but we can't accomplish it within the scope that we operate.
Sure.
So, I don't know if I necessarily like the idea of voting because you can create potential conflict or division, like, well, I want to do this or I want to do that. I think if we're going to rank them, we need to rank them based on achievability. Can we actually accomplish these within this time frame, given the resources that we have? And then that might create a different list.
Don't get so stern with it. I mean,
Well, no, I just try to be realistic.
No, I agree. You got to have some, again, because we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. But you're trying to give your staff, this is number one. And it sometimes doesn't happen this way, but you would like it to be obvious collectively that the 5 of you support that number 1, 2, 3. Again, sometimes it doesn't work that way. But if we can show that, number 1 is just raging with getting this done, then, it's clear. Do we want to, just go and put Veterans Park? I mean, what do we need to do, this year with the Veterans Park? What does the town of Blythewood need to do to help engage that project?
Funding. That's what, I mean, they're down to funding. So the only thing, we do,
Number one, funding is number one.
I mean, we've done everything else, we've approved the site.
We've allocated, I believe, matching funds to that particular project. Now, if that project isn't initiated by June 30th, then that allocation expires, because we can't hold future councils.
We would have to reallocate.
We have to reallocate, correct. Just so everyone's aware, I don't know, 75,000, I don't remember.
40,000.
How much was it?
We budgeted 40,000 to go towards the combat veterans memorial.
And
Okay.
that is capital money to do something to match them raising
Yes,
money.
Black Weather Historical Society is the lead on the project.
And so
That's about
likely
15.
at a minimum, we would, if nothing happens at the end of June 1 or June 30th, we would put that back in the budget.
Potentially, we would have to, if we want to continue that mission.
Now, keep in mind,
That's only 15%.
enough water has gone in around, and they're proposing spending 262,000 on this, and we have 40.
Yeah.
And so, but that's the kind of things we need to deal with.
Right.
So you were like 15%.
And that was only one proposal.
Yeah, that's what
You said 260?
That was
And
the
then I'll be
initial.
honest with you, I've done one of the, that's low. 260 is probably gonna be good, it'll come back higher, just out of my experience.
You'll probably use that same corporation too, but if you outsource that and bid it out, anyway.
That's not good, but,
And then I think our goal number 2 really dovetails with goal number 6. Those are one and the same.
Yeah, and I haven't merged them, but yes, I'm sure. there's
That
a
was
lot of-
Christmas. We want to put an emphasis on Christmas, but we're asking to have a large event every month.
Yeah, absolutely.
so does that go back to,
It would, back to C,
back to C?
it would.
So it sounds like, we're getting ready to have that conversation.
Yeah, you want to say?
I may say, see. But, so, we're having a conversation, so how do y'all see deciding this by, I don't think, are you deciding today, or is this just a conversation?
We have to, today's conversation will be
That's
a
the
massive
policy.
step in pushing that forward.
We're deciding on a policy.
Do you think you'll have that in place by March?
Oh, yes,
In place
the
today.
policy would be probably today.
Well, okay.
That's
So
our.
we'll just say first quarter.
But I don't want to confuse you. The policy is different from the budget.
It is.
So the policy allocates so many things for so many events, okay? But that doesn't mean all other events will fail. It just means if we value those other events, they have to come from the general fund. Are we gonna do that or not? And that's a whole different, that's a budget conversation, not.
Understand.
And that's where C comes in, because is it not feasible for the general fund to say, we're gonna put C money into this nonprofit and let you run with
Absolutely.
having events, building income, deciding what events are here, and work out of the event game.
So we'll put goal 2 and goal, was that 6?
It was 6.
All of that revolves around this. So today's meeting, we're gonna get somewhere, and so then we'll decide if we put money into the general fund, and that will help flow. So is that enough on that? So goal 3 was the McNulty Street and Creeks Road.
Yeah, and goal 3 and goal 9, you have your goals? Really are the same.
Okay.
Complete street plan, design, implement street sidewalks, I-77 bridge fencing, Creeks Road, Blackwood Road.
That's more of a partnership with SCDOT, Original County, and very minimal Blythewood involvement. There are some aspects that we can address.
Yeah.
And that we have funding mechanisms to address them, like sidewalks
Sidewalk.
or the fencing across the bridge.
And we set aside money to do that. We just need to get some grants and partner.
But this literally goes back into the communication.
Yeah.
Correct? And so it's continuing to have conversations to get these done.
Right. Yeah, we've done our part. We gave them a priority of list of what we want in order. And then now it's up to them to. But we still need to communicate with them and find out when it's coming, what else do you need, what's taking so long, those kind of.
Is there anything that needs to be assigned in the budget this year?
Well, I mean, that's like the Creek Road extension, preliminary plans 100%, right away plans 99, and construction plans at 93%. So that means that what can we do?
Nothing.
Nothing.
And we're in first stage of contract let, so
Yeah.
we can do nothing except.
Well, you can't, but I think you can communicate to the citizens where you are. That
You said it perfect, so that's when I get asked these questions, that's why I thought having this is very important. Because all of us have the same information and we can read from it and not guess. We can say, hey, we at this percentage, this is the language here, and keep moving.
But see, and while that's good, that doesn't have a date on it, and that's what people want to know.
When,
So, yeah, when is it gonna, I see it says 99%, what does that mean to me? So the strategic communication plan, if we're in that office knocking on doors, saying, can you give us an idea? Well, we got these 3 contractors looking at it, so we anticipate starting in March of '24. Then that is the information that,
Well, I think we're gonna get
Yeah.
that next, I think we're gonna get that, I think it's February, the next, county council meeting, I think in February, I think they're supposed to vote on it. And then we'll know those dates, so until stuff like that happens, we don't have dates.
y'all let me get you thrown off on your schedule for today.
yeah, I think it's about time, but go ahead and finish what you're doing.
So the next is, the industrial park, right?
Yep.
No, the master,
I would be annexation.
okay, so the next is annexation?
Yeah.
And it sounds like that y'all are considering engaging a consultant?
Yes.
And so I guess depending on that conversation, depends on how much money you put into the,
Like, we have an annexation. We have an annexation policy document that was done in around 5/18/21-ish. That we pretty much did not even reinvent the wheel. We used, Lupton.
they got very
Yeah,
strategic.
so I called the municipal association, they said that's like the best one in the state.
Right.
So we use that as ours. It's a complete document. I remember us voting on that document. So it's there, we just need help with the marketing aspects of it.
Yeah, the key, and y'all have a millage, right? And so that's huge. That makes a huge difference. The key is just being able to tell the citizen what their costs are now and what their costs will be tomorrow if they annex, and what changes occur. And I suspect not a lot, because y'all aren't in the fire business, so the fire is probably not going to change. Police doesn't play a role, so I don't know what the negatives would be, the political, I guess, but,
It is.
yeah.
Well, and then the only negative would change, if you're gonna build something, you gotta come get the council permission.
But they may prefer your process
Process over.
compared to Richland County, so.
And now we're down to industrial park. Which again, 2 years ago was property that was already acquired, some of it was being added, but now there's real.
What needs to be done this year on this project? What task?
I'll add the one, I think we need to annex is it the north portion of it?
Yeah.
We need to annex that portion. So I think that's a low hanging fruit.
The northwest.
Yes. Yes. That way the complete project is involved.
We said 6 was already part, 7, multicultural civic center. Is that a new facility?
No, it's an old historic gym. We're waiting on the school district to turn it over to the town. We've already set aside funds for it. What was it, $750,000 from art funding? Was it 500,000? 7? Okay. Do you remember,
Was
Mr.?
it 500,000 dedicated to the repair?
Yeah.
Kind of bringing it together.
So have you already engaged an architect? Have,
We don't have a problem. We're really waiting on the school to even send us a draft agreement. So, I mean, it has just barely gotten, other than just a conversation, we did a tour of it. But they have said yes, no, but it's really been put on the back burner at the school board level, to have any kind of real
so it would
conversation.
be advocacy for this.
We're just waiting on the school board to make a decision. They
And
just
that
recently
may
had
happen.
elections and they have new members.
Don't bet on the fact that they're gonna turn it over to us.
Right, that's what I mean. I don't want to, a lot can change, and they really have not. It's been me badgering them, but they've not been come to us with presentations that we rejected or, so I'm still trying to get
Right.
conversation going.
Premier Sports venue. So that, weren't y'all getting ready to purchase?
Yeah, phase 1 of that was where do you do it? And we're almost have that resolved, possibly.
And so if you do that, then I assume you would engage a consultant to develop a master plan.
And that ties into the lobbyist and outside funding and state and federal levels.
Okay? We've already said the complete streets was in the other one, the environmental stewardship.
Yeah, we purchased 4 acres to the north of here that has swamplands on it. Set aside that, potentially put in a boardwalk. Many ideas on the table, but the first step was to secure the property.
And you've already done that?
Yes.
So is there money in the budget coming up or now to do, have you done any studies or assessment of that property design work?
We're working on it. We have the architect doing the design
So-
work right now.
There is funding.
Yeah, and then a state earmark is for portion of, redo some of the existing field but he's gonna do the design of that and just do, just the design.
So there's no funding in the budget to build next year.
Correct.
That's right.
So,
We do not have that funding.
so,
So, yeah, it's a multi-year project, obviously.
right.
The environmental piece, livability committee. We do, by us holding true to values of being rural, I think it's important to involve the community in helping us understand what their concept of rural is. When we're looking at future developments or these plans that we're looking at now, just giving their environmental, giving them a piece of that pie.
And we also did the trough zoning, we enacted the trough zoning that's available for citizens
I didn't check.
of traditional recreation open space.
Okay.
We added that to our list of zoning options to set aside green space for any landowners who want to do that.
Okay. The revenue, the new revenue concept. So if y'all are at 0 mills, and y'all probably realize this already, there's an attorney general opinion, whether, so. And then I saw somewhere on here about a penny in the municipality. Right now, state law doesn't allow you to do that. We've tried to advocate for that. But beyond that, your guess is as good as mine as far as new revenue.
Well,
That's a tough one.
Charlie, there's really two ways. You increase your revenues or you decrease your expenses. Part B, we have control. That's how we increase our top line.
You have a,
We reduce our expenses.
right, or what was the,
Well, you increase revenues or
right,
you decrease expenses. That's just simple.
right,
Business 101.
right.
Well, as you said, we probably don't have the mechanisms to increase our revenues, but we can lower our expenses. And
Sure.
that's what we're looking to do, allocating funds to.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha, I understand.
I think we have a small piece of where we can increase, but I think it's not a popular one, here. But the more business, the more revenue from business license revenue pieces and the hospitality money or accommodations if it's the hotel goes up. So the more growth in the business sector increases those pies.
Well, we can annex businesses outside the town limits.
And we can, that's.
Well, realize though, I don't know, I would assume that Richland County, if you annex existing businesses, and I assume Richland County has a hospitality tax, and you can't pick up those revenues, they're gonna still continue to collect that. You're gonna get in a legal battle.
You mean develop current businesses?
Correct. If it's current, then they're already collecting it. Just because it comes in, they're gonna continue.
But you get the business license for the following year.
Possibly.
The first
Not,
year.
not
The first
necessarily.
year, you don't.
Yeah,
But the following
Yeah.
year, they'll get a black business.
yeah, just realize the complexity of annexing existing businesses. I think that was it, that was on the list. Do we want to hang these up and vote? Do we have time, or how do we want to?
I think Councilman Brocksmith was going to give us time to do it on our own and then come back together and we can finish that last part ourselves.
Yeah, and I'm happy to, oh, okay, or I can come back, or
Okay.
it's whatever y'all need to do. I don't want to just run.
I think it's important we finish the process. though.
Yeah.
Maybe not today, but
You can capture all of
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
and then send it to me and I can send it out and then we can decide what date we're going to come back and,
Sure.
if you're available, that'd be great. And, but,
I know I'll keep you on schedule, so.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take a small break, around 30 and we convene.
You want to, you may just move that table over here.
Yeah. Webcam over there, yeah. That's what I was thinking. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
I know, right? Rich.
reach. I didn't take it off yet, but I'm gonna see if it's in there.
I'm not sure how this will pick up. It's on right now.
Okay.
But whatever.
I don't know, I mean, I just got here just like you did. It's on thing, so. Oh, I know.